Welcome back to On the Clock, our show about making the moments matter. I'm your host, Elisa Gums. Today we're chatting about what working mothers need with Robbie Green, an executive coach and the head of Working Parents and Caregivers for a leadership development organization, Talking Talent. Robbie, we're so excited to have you here on the Clock. How are you?
I am doing so well, Elisa. Thank you for having me today. This is very exciting.
I would love to hear some of your personal story because you started your career in a whole different industry. What was your journey to becoming a professional and executive coach?
Oh my gosh, I love to share this. I really feel like it is because of my happy story of life. We all have a story, and they're not always happy stories, but I really have a happy story. Like, I come from parents who were married for 50 years and 1 month exactly, Lisa, to the day my father passed away. 50 years. And so I know that's a huge blessing that everybody doesn't get to experience. And my childhood, because of those parents, was so great that I wish I could just bottle it up and give it away to people. Like it was. I grew up in rural Mississippi. I love the country. I own it all the time. I feel like being in the country kept me from a lot of things that could have been detrimental in my life. But I just kind of felt a responsibility to give away that gift that was given to me to other people. So as I did start a career in the corporate world, I always did well, but I think I kind of quickly realized that hmm, climbing this corporate ladder is not necessarily what's fulfilling for me. However, I know it is very fulfilling for a lot of women, and these women want to have a career and they want to have a family. And I know that doing that was hard to juggle. So it's really what brought me to wanting to be a sounding board for these women to help them to be able to have a more thriving working life and career.
Yeah, we have coaches that specialize in all kinds of things. You've developed a specialty in working parents. Why that emphasis?
Well, really back to, the life that I got to live with my own parents. And I never sugarcoat how challenging it is to be a working parent. It's not easy. It's not easy because we have these children, and unfortunately, the hospital doesn't say, "Here's your beautiful baby as you head home." Oh, and yeah, here, Miss Green, here's an extra 5 hours in your day to add to it. We don't get any extra time, right? So we have all these extra things to do, but no extra time to do it. And the reality is, we're going to continue to replenish the earth, hopefully. And by doing that, and as the world has advanced, hopefully we can take advantage of some of these advancements and make things much more doable for these working parents as they come to work, juggle family, and still do it well.
You've been a working mom yourself for
Yes.
more than 25 years.
Yes.
What have you personally experienced as some of the greatest challenges that come with that?
You have to consider the phases of life and parenting. And I think that some of the biggest challenges are learning from your children early. Your children will teach you if you are willing to listen, right? And if you don't think that you're too big to learn from them. And so, one of the pleasures in coaching is that I get to share that with parents so that they don't have to wait as long to learn these lessons. But I can say for me personally, we're in the third state as a family that we've lived in together. And, moving from one state to another has been kind of challenging. We did it early on when my children were smaller. And then again, at very pivotal times in their lives, that they were in middle school and high school when we moved here to North Carolina. So just moving to different areas where you don't have a strong network to help with that has been one of the biggest challenges because it really, a village definitely helps in raising these children for sure. So going places where you didn't have any family around has really been the biggest challenge for me.
And were those decisions that were, spurred by work? Because we don't always think about, how the workplace spills over into family life. We
Yeah,
tend to think of it the other way around.
absolutely. Those decisions were both because of my husband's work. So my husband works with Boys and Girls Club, and both of those moves were for him. And I can say that in those early on, as a younger wife, as a younger mom, making a move like that for the other spouse, you can often find yourself feeling a bit lost in the shuffle of that, and like lost in your identity. And so again, just sharing my life experience and getting to talk to other working women who I know feel like this, but they're reluctant to say it. And it just kind of gives them the opportunity and the permission to open up and talk about, I don't know, who am I? Like, I lost my name. I'm just like somebody's wife. I'm just somebody's mom. Nobody even calls me by my name anymore. So I know how that feels. And just being able to say, listen, you didn't lose who you are, you just gained some different titles.
Yeah. Your mission is to give working parents and especially working mothers a better quality of life.
Yes.
Over the years, you've developed a framework that can help them have more, an acronym
Yeah.
that you use. Can you break that down for us?
Yes. I love an acronym. Listen. So MORE stands for managing mom or parent guilt, overcoming being overwhelmed. I reassure you of your relevance and then excite you about life and work. And we need more. We need more of those things. And I like to remind people, especially working parents, that I don't, I'm not a fan of you can have it all, because you can't do it all. You can't do everything. You can have more and you can have better, but you can't do it all. And we shouldn't ever be expected to do it all from other people. And you shouldn't set the self expectation that you can do it all. It just sets you up for failure that way. So when we manage this guilt, it will show up, but we get to decide how long it stays. When we recognize our stress getting out of control, we can manage it, and then you're no longer overwhelmed. You can remind yourself that not only are you relevant, but people are dependent on you. You're pretty important in this whole scheme of things, even though you might not get that affirmation from the people that you're pouring out to. And then excited about life. Lisa, our happiness is in front of us. So it hinges on our perspective and our willingness to be present. If we're concerned about what happened then, what did I do? Was I a good parent last week? I don't know. Maybe I should have done this, this, and this. And you're worried about, I don't know, can they get into North Carolina A&T? I don't know. If we're worried and we're not present, then we rob ourselves of our happiness. So becoming excited about the life that we're living right now.
Wow. That is something that I need to underscore for people listening, that our happiness is in front of us.
Yes.
Yes. But I want to dive into some of the things that you just mentioned, because I mean, we could probably spend an episode talking about each one of them.
Yeah.
But mom guilt is like real.
Oh,
How can working moms, I mean, you say manage the guilt or get over the guilt, but that's like easier said than done. So what are
yeah.
some of the ways that you help, your clients as you coach them to get over mom guilt?
At least I'm a very visual person. And so I can kind of imagine our emotions showing up to our door, right? And sometimes they knock. And we can look outside and see, oh, is that anger out there? I don't think I should let you in. Or is that sorrow, or is that resentment? Maybe I should let you in. And then sometimes we do let it in. But grief and guilt, both, and I mention grief because we can grieve more than just loss of life. You can grieve loss of life as you knew it. So once you become a parent, you can grieve the life of, oh my God, I used to be so free. And I can't just pick up and go do whatever I want anymore. Those two emotions have a key to your house, and they just let themselves in. And then you look around and you're like, oh my God, when did you get here, guilt? How long are you staying? And we can either ask guilt, how long are you staying? Or we can usher it out. So it shows up unannounced, it lets itself in, but we get to decide how long it stays around. The thing about guilt is it's a very real emotion, but it doesn't do anything. Even anger can drive you to better. If you get angry enough, you can say, okay, I'm over it. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not talking to them anymore. I'm going to do something better or different. But grief And I'm sorry, guilt just makes you feel yucky. It doesn't drive you to better. You're just wishing that you were either still working if you're present with your family, or you were present with your family. You're like, gosh, could be doing more things, and it just divides you. So bring yourself back to center. Acceptance is key. I talk about acceptance a lot. I'm not a fan of work-life balance. And just accepting that we can be in one place at a time, and back to the original thing, your happiness is in front of you. So if you're not willing to be fully present, you continue to rob yourself of your happiness.
I was going to ask you about work-life balance because, of course, you are an expert on this. And so, I have to know how you feel about it. You say you're not a fan of it.
No,
Explain.
because our words are powerful and they're so important, the things that we say, especially our self-talk, right? So if we say out loud, I need to have better work-life balance. Your brain's going, okay, great. Let's work towards it. We're going to balance our work, our life. We're going to put forth equal effort in both places, and we're going to expect the same results. When have you ever done that? Have you ever done that?
No.
Never. And I've coached people all over the world. Nobody's ever gotten in front of me and said, guess what, coach? I balanced my work and my life. I did it. Not a single person. Because you can't. You can't. But what you can do is accept. So I encourage work life acceptance with better boundaries. Boundaries is the only B word I like because we are in control of setting boundaries. We are not in control in balancing because there are too many outside influences. So I encourage my people to strive for things that we can actually achieve. And you can achieve work life acceptance and you can achieve boundary setting.
And what would you say that looks like? Does work-life acceptance look like understanding that sometimes you are going to have to give more to one thing than another? Does it mean sometimes you're going to have to let some things fall through the cracks? Like, what does it look like to accept work life?
Exactly. Listen, I'm a fan of reality, Lisa. I like reality. And the more we fight against reality, you just become exhausted. And so when I talk about acceptance, you have to accept that you're no longer a working woman, but now you are a working mother. You have to accept that you have a whole human being added to the same amount of time you had before that you're completely responsible for. You have to accept that it's going to take more of my energy to get through my day now than it used to. Acceptance. But if you don't, you'll find yourself going, oh my gosh, I used to be able to do this, and I don't know why I can't get a handle on this anymore. Well, maybe because you got a whole human at your house that's being very demanding of your time. And so when it comes to this, your best is expected always, but your best is not static or stagnant, it is contingent. So your best is contingent on what you have, what's in front of you. So you can only do the best with what you have.
Yeah. I also want to talk about the O in your acronym
Yeah,
for overwhelm
yeah,
because um, women in general handle more things than I'm always amazed at what we can handle.
yeah.
You throw more things on, and we figure out a way to handle more things, and especially Black women, because we've all been raised to handle all of the things. Um, but that sense of overwhelm is so real, and when you have legitimate duties at home, at work, at church, in the community, in your extended family, for your parents or your best friends, it's like, where do you even start when you're feeling overwhelmed?
You start with boundaries. There are a few clear signs that boundary lines need to be drawn. If you start to feel resentment for any person, place, or thing, you're doing all these things for your church or you're doing all these things for your extended family, but you're complaining the whole time.
Mhm.
If you start to feel overwhelmed in your life, and if you start to feel like, you know what, I'm not really doing well in any area, I'm not a good partner, I'm not a good daughter, I'm not a good mom, not a good employee, I'm just mediocre at best. That means too many people have too much access to you. And so that's a clear sign you need to draw a boundary line. So, yeah, there are always things that we could be doing. But from time to time, we have to reassess and say, what is my priority? Because you can only have one most important thing. And what are the other important items on my list that must be done?
Hmm.
Must be done? I would like to do. It's a big difference. And then there's a third list too. I want them done, but I don't want to do it. Right? So there's a difference in I need to do it or I just want it done. And that could boil down to I would love to have a clean, organized house, but I don't want to do it. Outsource it and you hire a housekeeper. So you have to go back and get your time, Melissa. The beauty is it's never lost. You can always reclaim it, but we often lend it out too much. But you can go back and get it.
Oh, I love that third list. I'm gonna go change all my to-do lists into want it done lists.
Yes. Outsource it, please. Yes, indeed.
There has been a lot written about COVID's effect on the world of work, about the great resignation, about women being pushed out of the workforce or pulled out of the workforce in some cases. Can you set the scene for us about the realities that women are facing right now when it comes to work?
Yeah. I just coached a mom just today that would really benefit from working at home most days. And the reality is, moms have discovered that we're in the throes of COVID, that I can actually be successful working from home and not only just successful, even more efficient. And not only that, I can give my company back a little bit more time because I don't have a commute one way and then back home. So the reality is, what working parents want most, especially working moms, is flexibility.
Mhm.
And it doesn't sound like a big thing because it's really not. Because it's been proven that people can be successful working from home. And I think at least the most challenging thing for me is that we are in such a wave of advancement in technology. Like technology is changing right now as we speak.
Yeah.
And if we're not taking advantage of our technology, what are we doing? What are we doing? So the more fighting against the reality is how I see it. Women are going to have babies. We need them to have babies, and let's accommodate them when they do that. So that's what the reality is. They need flexibility to continue to show up at work with excellence.
Yeah. Are you finding that a lot of the women that you're talking to are thinking about leaving the workforce?
You know, they are having a conversation about what's best. And it's not necessarily that they want to leave the workforce. Some of them are really talking out loud about what lane is best for them. And that circles back to me as a coach asking the question, have you asked for what you need? So you have to be your first advocate. And usually people are willing to help us much more than we think they are, but they have to know what we need help with. And you can't assume that just because somebody else is living their life this way or most of the people are doing this, you still only get to live one life and that's your life. So you have to ask for what you need. So being your very first advocate is very important.
Do the women know what they need? And I know that sounds like a
Yeah.
funny question, but
Mm-mm.
I always have found it personally one of the hardest questions that a person can ask me is what do you need?
Yeah.
Because I think we're so used to just like we're just going to keep going and do what we have to
Mhm.
do. We don't stop and figure that part out.
You know what? That's one of the beauties of coaching. I honestly think that one of the biggest benefits is allowing a person to have uninterrupted time. Because if you're a parent, you sometimes you literally can't go to the bathroom by yourself. I mean, literally. You see little fingers sticking on the door, mama, mama, mama. So this time with me is uninterrupted time for these parents to talk about them and them alone. And what do they need? I ask probably daily, tell me what you want, which is an even bigger question, right? What do you want? And that makes people stop and think about what they really want. Or if they describe to me a particular situation that they need to be different or better, to your point, I say, tell me what you need for that to be different or better. And then if they name one very big thing, it usually just snowballs down to a lot of other things. Okay, yeah, need it? All right, great. Do this, and this, and this, and this. And then by the end of the call, they're like, oh, you're so much lighter now. Yeah, because you have a plan. But if you never stop to talk it out, back to being overwhelmed, when our minds become overwhelmed with thought, the first thing to leave us is logic. So you're not thinking with logic because you only have room for the thoughts. You don't have room for the execution of the thoughts. So taking the time to talk it out is extremely beneficial for these people.
You mentioned earlier that, clearly women are going to keep having babies. Companies need to accommodate them. What can corporations do to retain their women talent, to create more supportive work cultures, and just in general to make things better for working mothers?
Whew, I'm so glad you asked. I'm like on a mission. I wish I could just like rent a tour bus and go across the country. The biggest thing that corporations can do is to make their benefits not feel like a burden. Because a lot of companies offer some really nice benefits. Like some of them have even extended their maternity leave. They have paternity leave. They have people coming back on a reduced schedule even after maternity leave. The issue is, what does that look like and what does that mean for me for this time that I'm out? Should I be concerned about my job when I get back? Am I still on track for promotion? How will this time away affect my year-end review? And if you're in a corporation and you go ask three people who should have the answer to any one of those questions, and they either can't answer it or you get different answers, some leaders need to have some conversations because everybody should be able to answer it and the answer should be the same so that women are not, and men too, are not stressed about taking their entire leave. So making the benefit really feel beneficial
Mm.
and not like it's a burden to do it. I have women say, I got 4 months of maternity leave, but I'm probably going to come back after 2 because I already got this really big project, or I don't want to miss this, or I don't want to miss that because they don't know how it's going to turn out for them. And that shouldn't be a burden that they're bearing.
Right. And once we get past that maternity time, working mothers are still working mothers for another 17, 18 years at least. So, what is it that companies can do, that they need to incorporate into their everyday policies and practices and cultures to make life easier for working moms?
You know what? I really believe it is a level of understanding and education from the top down. Because when women come back from leave, and even sooner, like they have the baby, and a lot of times people on the outside can view them as you're no longer pregnant. That's great. Everything's back to normal now. And the mom's going, are you kidding? I have like been sleeping on 2 hours of sleep for the last 3 months. I got, all of these issues. Like the hardest part just started. And not only that, when women are on leave, and even right after they come back, they're still recovering. But the
Physically,
concern,
right.
right, the issue is everything that's happening with recovery is inside. Nobody can see it happening. So the physical recovery is inside, your mental recovery, your hormonal changes in recovery are all happening internally. So you can show up and look amazing. You look like you got it all together, but you're still healing. So when moms come to me and they say, so how was your first day back? Well, I cried. I sat at my desk and cried today. And I said, it's okay. It's understandable, makes sense. You miss your baby, you got some changes going on. 4 months away from a place is long enough to establish a new habit. It's okay. But they can say that to me, but they may not feel comfortable saying that to their manager. So if managers understand the transition back and what that looks like, then I think the workplace can be better and for sure more psychologically safe for moms and dads to return to.
Yeah. With so many women having left the workplace during COVID, I think the answer to this may seem obvious, but I don't think everyone recognizes the dangers or the downsides of what happened when women leave the workforce in large numbers, especially when they leave leadership roles. Can you please explain for everyone as you're driving around in your tour bus with your megaphone shouting at corporations why this is such a problem?
Oh gosh, listen, it's not just me and what I think, right? So research shows that if you have a more diverse organization, it's going to produce more money, is going to produce better ideas. And so if we can start to talk to corporations when we're speaking their language, if you say things like, for the bottom line, to grow the company, to be profitable year after year after year, it only makes sense. It's proven in research that you need women in this workplace. Like it's not just like a be a good idea if it's a proven fact that if you do this, here are the results. And unfortunately, when families expand, people can start to make assumptions for your life. And if you don't proactively inform them, they'll just decide what you want. And sometimes it's not even with ill intent, right? They just say, oh, well, Lisa has a baby now, so she's probably not going to want to travel for work and do this. So we're going to just put her in this position. You never even said that. So it's very important before leave that you set an expectation of what you want your work to look like. If you talked about promotion early on, you can remind people that you still are on track to do that and you hope that they are too. And then once you return, you have the conversation again and let people know what you want, what you need, what your expectations are for work so that people don't assume for you. But yeah, women in the workplace, this is not just a good idea.
Yes, I know, right?
Right.
That we should even have to say it, but we do.
We do. We
This
do.
has been so informative. Thank you so much, Robbie, for sharing the unique ways you're helping people make the most of the time we've been given by helping us all navigate our work lives. And thank you all for watching On the Clock. We'll see you next time as we continue to talk about working with purpose and living with passion.